Well, what is up, guys? Reacting this today, we are going to spend the entire stream reacting to Stacy Warden on the Wolf of All Streets podcast. I think this is a big deal. It was nice, first off, to see Bill Barheit featured there earlier. Now we've got Stacy Warden, and I apologize if I'm not really sure about the stream here because yeah, well, for some reason, dropping a lot of frames. I'm not sure what's going on there compared to usual, but we'll try our best. We'll power through. I've been trying to close as many tabs as I can, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how we get through this, but we are going to react live to the Wolf of All Streets podcast. We're going to watch the whole thing and just react to the whole thing. So let me know how you're doing. By the way, if you like this stuff, if you want to get my bits up, you want to get my drop frames down, hit the like button. That will help, I think, somehow. I'm not sure how, but I think it will. Found one more I can close. Problem is, once I start a tab, it's hard for me to, yeah. Well, all right, we got rid of some stuff. You know what? I know about that too. We'll get rid of that. All right, got some more tabs closed. That should help get the frame rate up. At least it's not completely disconnected, but I'm not sure what's going on with that. Hope everyone's doing well out there today. Just from watching, it looks like it's fairly, oh, I see freezing happening. Oh boy. Well, hopefully it'll improve as we go on. I'm not sure why all of a sudden today it's struggling. Not sure what to make of that, but we will get to that. We'll talk about prices. You know, the market's actually holding up pretty decently lately, so that's something. And we're just going to react to this news. So why don't we just get right into it? You know, as always, so if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can see all these. And, you know, maybe the more subscribers will help our frame rate a little bit. Again, really not sure what's going on and why that is suddenly, why it's suddenly dropping so much frames. But that's the nature of this stuff. You know, you do it 100 times, 99 times, and it's fine. And then the 100th time you do it, it just goes to pot. Not sure what's going on there, but anyway, let's go right to the prices and let us know how you're doing today. How's your bags doing? And we're gonna get like Bitcoin. We're gonna get right into the news here, into the prices. Bitcoin at 72.6, so doing pretty well, up 8% on the week. So that's not too bad. It's nice to see I actually recorded I still have to put it out there. I apologize if you're a channel member watching. I have a recorded video for you on my portfolio. I just need to put it up. It's been a busy week. Ethereum over 2,200. That is nice to see. XRP at $1.34. Let's see, top 10. BNB back over 600. Solana 84. So that had really dropped a lot. Solana had dropped down quite a bit. Not quite to my buy levels, but definitely dropped down. Tron at 31 cents. Dogecoin still under 10 cents. Hyperliquid at $42. That is the top 10. Let's see. Oh, Greenblue says looks fine on YouTube, so I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that is the case. It seems to be picking up now. Now we're hitting like the yellow range, back to like 7,000. Frames have dipped a lot, so that's good. But anyway. Let's see who's the top winners over the 24 hours. We have Rave DAO, brand new one. Haven't heard of that one. New entrant into the top 100 at 234% up. It's gone up 500% in 7 days. So apparently we still get some of these. Dash up 36 point, almost 37%. Dex at 20%. Zcash 16%. Decred at 11%. And look at Monad at 10%. Up on the day. doing a nice weekly candle as well. I assume we're going to see very similar ones on the weekly. Aerodrome Finance at 6.5%, Athena at 6%, Hyperliquid 6%, and Siren 5%. Look at it, pumped 320%. Now on Tuesday we looked at this and this thing was down like crazy. So that's interesting. How about on the 7-day? I'm guessing Rave Dow is still going to be at the top. Yes, it is, followed by Siren at 300. So Rave Dow 400, almost 500% up on the week. Siren at 318. That's a lot. Zcash 61.5, Dash 50% up. Monad 32.5% up. Morpho at 24% up. Athena 20-some% up. Dex 19% up. Aerodrome Finance at 19, and Arbitrum. Got Hyperliquid in a close 11th. Also Near down here at 14%. That's kind of nice to see. ICP, I know I got some ICP fans. Even SWE getting a almost 9% jump. So don't see Algorand on that list. I'll tell you what stuff's going on with Algorand. We had a nice little pump earlier in the week that seems to be largely disappearing. We'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah, who's the losers today? We got BitTensor down 20%. World Liberty Financial down 14.5%. Algorand on the chart there, by the way. We'll get to that. Trump under 4% down. Artificial Intelligence under 4% down. Polygon down 2%, 2.5% thereabouts. Render 2.6%. Algorand 2.3%. Stacks 2.2%. Ton 2.2%. And Aster down 1 point, just a little under 1.5%. And how about on the week? I have a feeling we're going to see Algorand here too. Oh, god dang it. Hold on. Okay. World Liberty Finance down 17% on the week. BitTensor down 13%. EdgeX down 11%. Polygon down 8.36%. Midnight down 8%. Algorand down 6%. You can see that little falling zigzag pattern. It's an official term. No, for real. Stellar down 5.5%, Aave down 2.6%, Stable down 2.5%, and Ondo down 1.8%. So those are not huge weekly downtrends. So you can see the general trend is going up. We're actually in neutral territory at 48. That's kind of wild. We haven't been there for a while. Are people seeing this? I see my KBPS, it's kind of in yellow range now, so it should be solid. It's weird. It says you're not receiving it, but it looks like it's going. So okay, we'll just keep going. Yeah, and like I said, neutral territory, still shifted toward Bitcoin as far as altcoin season. I think they should just get rid of this at this point. I don't think there's going to be a such thing as an altcoin season exactly. I just don't think the euphoria is baked into the structure anymore, if that makes sense. Overall market cap still 2.45, so not huge comparatively. I mean, we're actually over 3 something not that long ago, maybe a year ago. So, and it's only a 1/4 point up on the daily. Coin market cap 20 is actually 0.6, so that's interesting, right? Very interesting price action going on there. We're going to move through this a little bit quickly today because we got a long video to watch together. We're going to try to watch it all. Yeah, mostly down. You know, Alpha, I want to highlight Alpha because Alpha's been dropping. My Alpha bag went from like 500 some a few months ago to like just over 200. Oddly enough, my Alpha prediction market play are doing really well. I can't seem to miss. My strategy was a little bit different today than it usually is, so not sure how that's going to play out. We'll see. But overall, I built a baseball prediction engine, and I've been using it, and it's really going well. Meanwhile, Tiny here is up over 0.3 cents. That is a 16% increase over 7 days and a 59% increase over 30 days. So on the uptrend, even though, yeah, you know, we look at the long-term chart, this thing was trading between 2.5 and 5 cents at one point. So You know, you can't get too excited, but if you bought at those low levels, you might. Yeah, a lot of red on the weekly and daily candles. Wrapped Bitcoin. Okay, that doesn't really count. Yeah, not too much to get excited about. Now I see Opal here as a trending one. You guys, what's wrong with you guys? Stop buying that stupid coin. Opal is such a joke. Seriously, screw those guys. I can't stand this attitude of we're going to take money from the foundation to build our business, and then we're going to turn our back on the blockchain that we built on. Yeah, not cool with that, especially since their community manager tore into me, and I was like, really? Nice to see Monko. Look at over 7 days, 50% up on Monko. Now that's pretty cool, I think. That is probably one of the biggest gainers on the week. And here it is 6% on, that's actually 5.23, but they round up to 6 on the daily. ATARD up 15%. That guy actually, I found the guy who rugged this actually lived near me. I thought about going and confronting him, doing like a confrontational video. That'd be pretty wild, but I don't know. I imagine the juice wouldn't have been worth the squeeze. All right, let's go to Saucer Swap really quick. And like I said, we're kind of breezing through this. Haystack is a big sponsor of the show, by the way. You should definitely check out Haystack if you want a very seamless way to trade. Saucer Swap is not a, and I have a link in the description, by the way. Now, Saucer Swap, not a sponsor, but you know, I like them and they have a nice tool. I really wish they had 24-hour and 7-day on here. That would be cool. Let's just look for any big movers. We're only going to talk about big movers. Everything kind of flat. Even Gib, which is usually a big pump, has a lot of volatility usually. Even that one's kind of flat. Not a lot of movement. KBL is down 2.5%. Let's see. I'm skipping derivatives too. So, you know, if it's a synthetic version of a different coin, we're just going to ignore it. Ooh, DOSA dropped 18.5%. So sorry if you were holding on to that one. I think wasn't that the one that was in profit last week. If you get a huge pump, you know, you should really take some off the table. Lock in those profits. Jeet down 2.5%. Jam down 4.5%. GC down up almost 2%. That's pretty good. Oh, here's one. Centex up 10, almost 11%. Suit up down 7%, I should say. But yeah, most are kind of trading within range. Very interesting on the week. Yeah, almost nothing. That's really interesting. So, well, that was easy peasy, huh? That is our Algorand and HBAR price charts. We did that for the week. Now we will get to this video because I want to react to this video from Scott Melker and Stacy Warden. Stacy Warden went on the Wolf of All Streets, and that follows Bill Barheit going on, maybe a week ago, something like that. Both are definitely worth listening to, by the way. We're going to actually react to this in full today. That's going to be our full video. I'm going to dive into that. I think it's fun. I think it's pretty neat. I think I listened to some of it. Artemis says, hey buddy, how did you do the Alpha Arcade strategy running? I'll just say that I built myself a tool to make predictions, and we're going to keep it at that. I'm just not willing to give away the juice on that yet. So I think she did a good job, and I didn't listen to all of it, so we're kind of going in a little bit blind. We'll react to that today. It might take some time, you know, take some time to get through. It's a longer video, but it's really good. Well, it's 37 minutes. I think we're going to speed it up so we can make it a little faster. So this should probably take up most of our stream today. In fact, probably all of it. Let me just set this to the right speed. All right, and let me get this centered a little bit. That's pretty good. All right, this is Stacy Warden with Wolf of All Streets, and I imagine that Bill Barheit probably gave a shout out, probably helped get her on the show. I've heard she was on back in the day a while. Someone told me I haven't been listening to podcasts very long, probably about a year, so Apparently a few years ago she had been on a bunch of times, but now here she is. So let's give it a listen.
Bitcoin made a huge move, smashing through $72,000 before retracing a bit on the news that there's a likely 2-week ceasefire in the conflict between the United States, Israel, Iran, and seemingly the rest of the Middle East. But in the meantime, we have a lot happening on the Wall Street front, including Morgan Stanley launching their Bitcoin spot ETF today. And even further down the rabbit hole we go, we can talk about quantum tokenization and everything else happening in the crypto market. And we have one of the best people to do that with today. We have Stacy Warden, CEO of the Algorand Foundation, here to unpack all of it for us right now. Let's go.
Let's go.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I know that I am happy to not have seen a civilization erased from the planet today, which was a threat yesterday. So all credit to anyone involved to orchestrating a hopeful ceasefire here. I'm actually going to see a doctor today. I'm in recovery for TDS, so I don't want to dive too deeply into it because I know that the war talk is exhausting to everyone. Before I go ahead and bring Stacy on, I do want to remind you guys that tomorrow we are doing a webinar. I'm doing a webinar with my good friend Bill Barheit over at Abra. Obviously, also.
Yeah, and also he is on the board. He's a new member of the board on the Algorand Foundation. So it was nice to hear him actually shout out Algorand on the previous episode, which I thought that was really neat. It's nice to get Algorand's name out there if you're an Algorand investor. Now, Artemis in the chat says, Algorand, my thesis was always cheap and hated. Seemed to be a good investment thesis. I believe it was a rock solid chain. And now with good people, I'll be surprised when ALGO gets real world adoption. Well, narrative matters a lot. So we'll see. I'm not so sure. But I think if you got in towards the bottom levels, I mean, it could be a good hold. I just, generally speaking, I think anything that's not Bitcoin at this point, anything that's not Bitcoin or Ethereum is kind of a crapshoot, and you should definitely not be going all in. So I hope people take this to heart. You really got to diversify. In fact, one of the reasons I've been selling off some Algorand is because I just want to diversify my portfolio more. I think I'm too heavily weighted in Algorand. Doesn't mean I'm like getting rid of it all. In fact, I'm not even getting rid of most of it. I'm keeping most of it. But, people did kind of freak out on me. So, and I did not sign up for this webinar. I guess I probably should have. But let's see let's continue on the pod here and see what he has to say.
Alongside Marissa Kim, talking about crypto portfolio strategies and investing for the fourth turning. It is very ominous. But we're going to go through, a good hour of questions. I'm going to ask them, digging into the best way to structure a portfolio, obviously, and working with them. We're very close with them. And so heavily suggest that you come participate. It should be very, very interesting. I'm doing it because I want to learn as well. Always the reason that we do these things. So check that out tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's April 9th. And you can sign up right down below. I'm going to go ahead and bring on Stacy. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I want to do my own plug for your webinar tomorrow because we have recently moved back to the United States, become a for-profit entity, and reconstituted ourselves with a new board. And Bill Barheit is my board chair.
Bill is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I had a podcast with him on Sunday, and he was, proclaiming your amazingness and excellence. And we talked very deep on the quantum, which I do want to get into because it was interesting that obviously the quantum news seemed to be very bullish for Algorand while bearish for others. So we will get to that for sure. First, I want to talk about obviously the fact that we had this big move across, I think, the crypto ecosystem. It seemed like this is huge relief to all markets, right? Everybody breathed a sigh of relief because we went from really intense rhetoric to, I think, a calming of nerves. If you take a look at this, there was a huge short squeeze. We don't need to get deeply into the price, but do you think that that's directionally correct, that we're just kind of seeing a sigh of relief right here while we wait and see what comes next? It was pretty.
I think that's true. And I think it's true that Algorand obviously benefited hugely from the Google quantum report. So for those that don't know, he kind of like breezed over that, but Google put out this report on quantum computing saying that quantum computing that can crack encryption is coming much sooner than they thought. And blockchains need to be prepared by 2029, probably, in order to be able to do this, in order for it to work, or because quantum computing will be able to break encryption. And Algorand was mentioned like more than any other chain except Bitcoin and Ethereum. and that it was not being mentioned as a solution. Bitcoin and Ethereum, it was talking about threat. Algorand, it was being talked about as a solution. So it benefited greatly from this. Very, very cool. So that's why Algorand had a huge price increase. And that's what he's talking about. It went from like over 8 cents, a little over 8 cents to 12.5, almost getting close to 13%. Sheriffus says, good morning, and good morning to you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. All right, let's continue the pod here.
The intent's there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, when I had my sigh of relief was when that B-2 bomber was flying out of across the ocean, and then they showed it taking off, and then they showed it making a U-turn and going back again. I was like, okay, civilizations are good not to destroy them. So I was of course quite pleased about that. But I think it shows that, Bitcoin really it's a high beta macro asset, and it's going to react to this macro news the way other risk-on assets react to it. And so it'll do well. We'll all do well when the macro. I mean, it's just very hard to know how to price this stuff, right? Like whose model is the obliteration of a civilization, And so like nobody knows how to even think about it. I mean, it's bad, obviously, but just how bad and where's the flight to safety? It's hard to understand that stuff.
I was going to say, not only do I struggle with how to handicap the news or what's being said, but it seems like even before this happened and certainly during, no asset has reacted as you would have anticipated. Right. I mean, gold and silver were already trading like extremely high volatility, small cap altcoins before we even started, right? All the crypto traders seem to be on hyperliquid now as oil experts with high leverage. So I just really don't even know that anything's moving how it should, in the context of past events.
Right. And the bedrock of diversification is that you need to understand how things, what covariance is, which two assets are related to each other, covariate with each other, and in what way. And if that all breaks down, then your whole diversification, your whole portfolio strategy also breaks down.
It's called beta, by the way. That's one of the things in crypto is there's a lot of beta. Bitcoin moves and a lot of the other coins move. Sometimes not. Sometimes there's a variance. Sometimes some coins are counter movers. Like Unisat Leo typically seems to be up when the market is down and vice versa. And there's a couple others that I've noticed, but that one stands out in my mind. Algorand is kind of like, I would call it low beta because it does sort of move with the market, but most of the time, and this Google news was absolutely an exception, most of the time it tends to not be very volatile in either direction. You don't typically see it in the top 24 or top 10 for biggest movers or biggest losers. And that's both the 24-hour chart and the 7-day chart. Now today was an exception, I think, because we had that huge pump up. So I think that's a big part of it, but it tends to be just not a price mover. And, people get mad when I point that out, but it's like, it's the truth. Sorry.
Yeah, I find it just interesting as we just kind of wrap up the market talk that we are behind the surface seeing some bullish things, right? Here, Bitcoin long-term holders have expanded their holdings to 4.37 million Bitcoin as of April 7th, signaling sustained supply absorption per crypto quant. So it does seem like the heaviest selling is probably over. And that's quietly, once again, when you see prices depressed on any asset, you're probably seeing a whole lot of weak retail hands selling into much stronger hands. I showed a graphic 2 days ago, but institutions had bought 69,000 Bitcoin in the first quarter, while retail had sold 61,000 Bitcoin in the first quarter, right? I don't know how that plays for Algorand or other assets. I'm just kind of looking at Bitcoin, but I would imagine that that's reflective across the entire space.
Yeah, I mean, all coins like Algorand, we have very little alpha, right? We're not going to do well if Bitcoin's not doing well. And I view it as a Peloton game, like a biking. You just got to make sure you stick with your Peloton. You don't want to be falling behind your Peloton. And if you can get into the next Peloton, that's always good as well. But you're just trying to, you're very exposed to the overall market, of course.
But it also hasn't been, because if you notice, it's been falling into the third tier Peloton, I would say. It's not in the top 10. It's not the next 25. It's kind of in that range, that mid range, where it's been, it got up into the 50s, I think, when Algorand had his big pump. I think it was back down to the 60s, I imagine, something like that. So yeah, it'd be nice to get back up to that Peloton, but it's also, yeah, like I said, it's a slow mover. It doesn't really pump a lot, but it doesn't really crash hard either. It's just kind of like that little meme where he's poking out a stick saying do something. That's usually the case. Anyway,
the particular Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely worth mentioning today that we have Morgan Stanley debuting their Bitcoin ETF as price slump rattles holders. It's interesting. We get, the narrative here on Bloomberg, price slump rattles holders, but 2 days ago we had the largest inflows of the year into these Bitcoin spot ETFs, like over $400 million or something, which I discussed with Matt Hogan yesterday. But I think it's hard to understate how important it is having Morgan Stanley, which doesn't generally do ETFs, right? Saying that this is the space we need to get into. And I think they undercut BlackRock by like 10 bips on fees or something.
Yeah, that's what they're
basically saying
doing.
we need to win this thing. It's big enough that we care. And we all know that it takes a long time to turn an aircraft carrier. And Morgan Stanley is about as much an aircraft carrier in institutions as you can get. So I think this is a monster signal.
Yeah, I mean, what do they have? 16,000 salesmen, good salesmen. You don't, if you're a sloucher, you're not a salesman at Morgan Stanley. So they are going to do, and same thing with JP Morgan. Like ultimately, they're going to do what their customers are demanding from them. It's not that Morgan Stanley woke up one day and said, "Oh, we should do this." They started getting phone calls from their customers saying, like, I don't want to open an account at Coinbase. Like, where is my Bitcoin ETF? And so I think that's actually beneath the surface, the much more bullish signal. People, registered investment advisors and pension funds and retirees and dentists or whatever are saying, like, I want some exposure to this. Why can't I have it?
Yeah, and it feels like that's been the story with all of the larger institutions, even the most reluctant. I mean, Jamie Dimon's even out here now saying like tokenization and blockchain are the future. Of course, he'll still hate Bitcoin and all the assets underlying.
Right.
But JP Morgan, if you look beneath the surface, just like Morgan Stanley, they're servicing all the clients. They're fulfilling the client needs. They're building in the space. They're just like it almost feels like they just want to slow things down so they can catch up and make sure they're the ones who win at this point, right? I mean, that's kind of how it feels to me.
Yeah.
It's wild. And so there's also a couple stories here from Charles Schwab. I'm not going to show the video. Actually, we have it. But Charles Schwab says it plans to launch spot Bitcoin trading within the next 12 months, 12 months. You and I kind of quipped before the show that, like I said, I think see you in 2037. Like this is so a year from now, I have no idea what the map will even look like, much less what the crypto industry will look like. But
also, I mean, Scott, not for nothing, I guess we know who Satoshi Nakamoto is now.
Okay, we're going to get into that in 1 second, right after I tell you that Charles Schwab has 1.3% allocation to Bitcoin or Ethereum, can reshape your portfolio risk. But now we got to talk about it. You got it.
Yeah, so I actually read some of this story, and I read a breakdown of it. And this idea that this computer scientist named Adam Back, there's a lot of stuff that lines up. Maybe they'll kind of go through it. But they think this is by John Carreyrou, by the way, the guy who did the guy who wrote the story about Theranos that took Theranos down. And I think the reporting was pretty good. I know Elizabeth Holmes feels like she got maligned, but like, is she the best judge of that? I mean, I assume that if you're the person who got taken down, you would assume that people usually think they're the good guy. The biggest thing is that this guy had sent emails to Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious creator of Bitcoin. So what he did is he basically went through, he analyzed his speech patterns. There's a lot of things that really match up, a lot of the terms that they both used and some of the idiosyncrasies that both of them shared. But, it seems odd that the thing that's to explain is why were the two sending emails to each other? Was he communicating with himself? I guess it could. It'd be a way to communicate back, and it'd be a way to kind of hide the fact that he is Satoshi, if that was the case. I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. I don't think that's the case, to be honest. Because he's like still active. He's still out there talking and speaking and talking about Bitcoin and being involved. And it's like, why would he do that and then be the creator of Bitcoin and then just have all this Bitcoin that he doesn't touch? Like, why? Why not just, who cares? Why is it important? I mean, I guess I could see the point for him being pseudonymous because it kind of creates mystery, and it's you can't really tie it to like a particular ideology, because if you knew who the creator was, you could say all these things about that creator, and you could say, oh, well, Bitcoin sucks because look at the person that created it. They did this. And it's not logical, but that's what people did. Like they did that with Sam Bankman-Fried and the effective altruism movement. Well, just because one guy in that movement is bad doesn't mean the movement is bad, right? If most of the people were bad, you might have to take a look at it. So anyway, let's let them continue.
My quest to solve Bitcoin's greatest mystery. So I saw this come up this morning. I didn't read it. You have.
I read it.
According to this writer, Adam Back is Satoshi. I happen to have some inside baseball on some other potential Satoshis that are about to drop. But let's talk about Adam Back here, because this is not the first time we've heard his name mentioned when trying to identify who Satoshi is. Yeah,
it's interesting. And, Adam, I'm just talking about a New York Times article I read. Like, don't come getting mad at Scott or me about this. But she marshals, it's a very long article, and it's full of like kind of circumstantial evidence, but she just like tick, 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 tick for 3,000 words or something. And she makes.
So she is John Carreyrou. That's not a she. Am I wrong about that? That's kind of strange. Like, John Carreyrou is a dude. He's the guy who wrote it. He's the same one who took down Theranos, like I said.
the best case possible. I think I don't know if it's she or he actually. It makes the best case possible. And anyway, this journalist is convinced that Satoshi is and I'm back.
So I think we all have Satoshi fatigue as well, right? Because we've seen this movie so many times. Right. Peter Todd, the last one I mentioned, I don't remember the name. I think it was on HBO, and the big reveal was Peter Todd, who stood there like,
right?
He's never called me that, but like, no way. And Adam Back standing next to him, like his McLaren hat or whatever, like kind of, So, no, but there's another movie coming out. I happen to have gotten a sneak preview of it.
Who do they say it is? Who do they say it is?
I'll tell you.
Oh, come on, stop.
I'm under embargo, but I will say that Adam Back is close to it, but they believe it's more than one person.
Okay.
And it's a very convincing.
Really? It's a woman.
7 women.
That's what I'm talking about. I knew it.
A lot of the evidence comes from women. And so, and really, really compelling. So I don't know that we're ever going to get consensus on this, but I guess the bigger question is, does it matter? And if so, how much does it matter? To me, it's less who did it. I think it's important to note whether they're alive or dead.
Right, for sure.
And what the likelihood is that those coins could move. Because I think if we're being honest, is like we've come to this almost religious fervor about Satoshi Nakamoto, and the anonymity and decentralization has become so key. And this will be a nice segue into quantum as well, because there's concern about those very tokens. But I don't think anything would shake the faith of ardent Bitcoin believers than Satoshi coins voluntarily moving.
Yeah. Right. I think it's the two things that you mentioned. It's the fact that so many Bitcoin can drop. Obviously, that's not going to be very good for the price of Bitcoin. But also there is this mythical idea around Bitcoin, and it's headless, and it really is permissionless and decentralized and all of those things. And to have a leader, it's, we have the core devs and people like you that we consider part of the kind of the Bitcoin leadership. But it's nice not knowing who Satoshi is, I think.
I agree. And I also think it's interesting to hear Stacy Warden talk about Bitcoin being leaderless, because obviously Algorand is not that. It does have a leader, a very specific leader or leaders or people. And most of the blockchains that are being created today, they have like some sort of foundation that runs it. And I guess at some point the goal is that the foundation no longer runs it, right? But that's not what we're seeing. So how decentralized are these things? That's kind of a matter of perspective. The block size wars were pretty interesting back in the day. That's where Bitcoin Cash came from. Turned out to be much less of an issue than people thought. Bitcoin's still been successful. The fork that addressed the block size is Bitcoin Cash. It's hasn't really taken off. I mean, it is used. I mean, it's still in the top 20, right? But not seeing the same level of fervency, I would say. So yeah, I guess that's all the comment I had on that. Let's let her continue.
Just for the romantic element of it as well.
I mean, Adam participates in the economy, right? And this is not an insult at all, but I mean, he is a businessman. Right. He has built insane things. He participated in Bitcoin treasury market.
Right.
It would take the restraint of like Herculean effort for him to never have moved one of those tokens. I mean, we're talking about a top 10 wealthiest person on the planet if Satoshi Nakamoto was a single individual with access to all of it.
Right. By hitting return on your keyboard,
Oh my God, I'd have to cut all of my fingers, hands, arms, head. Like it would be the most impressive feat in the history of humanity. I'm not saying he couldn't pull it off, but man, you looked at Adam, he's just been such a participant, the entire time. He's not the disappearing and not having a say type. So I would be very surprised, but I can't wait to actually dig more deeply into this, because
the approach that she takes, it's kind of interesting what you learn about like how you try to unearth somebody's identity. So that's also, it's kind of like I learned a few things about how you do that. So that's kind of also what's interesting about the article.
I mean, the more I read and hear, I just think it's a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if anyone says to anyone, are you Satoshi Nakamoto? They have plausible deniability.
Right.
Nobody's gonna be like, I'm his like left kidney. Right. Or like I'm right here. So I think that it gives everybody plausible deniability, but they can kind of smile and know that they were a part of it, and maybe the keys are gone. I mean, I can't even like find my actual keys on a daily basis. So but compelling. I love that it just keeps coming around no matter what
we're not going to get any resolution to this. This article's not going to do it. But
isn't that good?
Yeah.
I don't want the resolution. So I want to now talk about quantum. This has obviously been the biggest topic, I would say, over the past few weeks, which I find surprising. I've even had guests on who I've had regularly who now believe that price has largely been suppressed because of quantum fears. And I can say anecdotally, I have normie Wall Street friends who will say, yeah, but Bitcoin's dead. Like quantum's going to crack it, right? So they're seeing the headlines. They're not digging too much deeper. we don't even need to talk about the Bitcoin side, but Algorand obviously effectively quantum prepared. I mean, you can break down exactly what it means, but there was a big bump in price when we saw the Google paper on quantum.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't want you to think I'm counting carefully, but we were cited or mentioned 32 times in that paper, including 3 of our engineers. So we did get about a 40% price bump. And so that we did an event, our chief economist, Matt Brigida, did an event analysis, and where he extracts all the other macro things out of it. And yeah, we got about a 40% bump. So it was good.
I thought they weren't supposed to talk or care about price. It's so much for that, right? I think it was obvious. It was absolutely obvious. So someone in my chat do you remember this? Someone in my chat was saying, oh, it had nothing to do with the quantum news. Obviously not true. They actually did the analysis. They took out all the macro factors. But I mean, it was obvious to anyone who saw it. It was just such a strange bump that the timing could only be explained because it never pumps like that on any reason. And it was bucking the market. It was number one and number 2 for a while. And we're talking like 5 days of candles. When's the last time you saw that from Algorand outside of a major macro move? I mean, it just seemed obvious to anyone looking at it, to me. But I'm glad they did the actual analysis and dove deep into it and saw that that's the case. I think that's true. So anyway.
It's good for us, for sure. And we have a very robust post-quantum roadmap. We just keep chipping away at this. So we've always cared very much about this. Our founder, of course, is one of the world's leading cryptographers. So it's a genuine narrative for us. And so I think,
for those that don't know, that's Silvio Macaulay, who's actually not really involved much with Algorand anymore. I don't know if they hear from him that much. I know he's focused on the fiat chain right now, so he's not really focused a lot on Algorand. And that's one of the things, we were talking about narrative before, Artemis, if you're still here. We were talking about narrative and how that matters, and the fact that right now Algorand doesn't really have a strong leader in terms of like a public face. Stacy hasn't really been able to fulfill that role. John Woods was fulfilling that role, but then he left. He's at Nillion. He's now the CEO of Nillion, in fact. Not really getting that from people. Hey, by the way, if you're watching this, I see we got a lot of new viewers. Please hit that like button, because that's a signal that YouTube takes to show it to more people. So I really appreciate that. I really want to get the likes up on the video, and we want to get more people joining the conversation. So, and by the way, feel free to chat during this. I know we're watching this video and reacting to it, but absolutely feel free to react and say stuff while we're watching. We love to have an active chat. That's really helpful too. And of course, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. We'll let her finish now.
I think the market has recognized that, and we of course are quite pleased about it.
I mean, from a still understandable by all of us perspective, what are you doing to prevent, quantum issues moving forward? I mean, what does that actually look like from a, layer 1 perspective?
Yeah, so I'm going to steal this from one of the engineers in the paper that Google references, named Giulio Pizzini, and but he put it in a very nice way with a very nice metaphor, which is that you have to think about, when you're thinking about quantum security, you have to think about the history, the present, and the future. And so to make sure that the history of your chain can't be tampered with, this is something that we have, in fact, found a solution for back a number of years, actually. And so what quantum computers can do is they can start with a Genesis block, and they can create a whole nother history of the chain. And so what we have done is put in, using quantum resistant signatures called Falcon keys, every certain period of time, every certain number of blocks, a check using the consensus mechanism of the Algorand protocol itself with a quantum signature, a Falcon signature, so that when a post-quantum computer comes and tries to rewrite the history of the chain, we can say, no, that is not the history of the chain. This is the chain. And if we have to roll it back, we'll have to roll it back like 15 minutes to the last quantum signature. Now, these signatures are very large, so you can't use them for every single transaction. And then but it does protect kind of what has happened on chain. That's the most important element of it. And for the current history of the chain, you want to make sure that your transactions are quantum secure. Now, we can do that, but again, it takes a lot of block space. It takes a lot of space. And then for the future of the chain, you have to make sure that your consensus mechanism itself is quantum secure. And we're not there yet, so we don't want to overstate this at all. But another point that we'd like to mention is that there are 2 elements to this. One is, can quantum computers, can they change your chain or take money out of your wallet without you knowing about it or being able to prove that they did it? Versus, can they still do it, but you can flag it and prove that it was done, so that you can be recompensated in some way, or the chain
Okay, so like the simple dumb way of stating this is like right now the history is essentially secure. It's quantum secure, so you can't go in and mess with it. They have developed post-quantum signatures so that future transactions are also quantum proof. I don't think they're being implemented very much because they're very resource heavy and they're very slow. So you'll slow your speed by like 10, 20x, I think, maybe even more. I remember, no, it's at least 10 times. It might be actually be more than that. I'm trying to remember exactly, but there was a podcast where an Algorand engineer was on. They were talking, and some other engineers talking about quantum. So the reason you won't see this much until like when it's actually needed is because it will slow the network like a ton, but it will be safe. So there's that side too, and that's pretty important.
It can be rolled back, and so the first is much scarier that a quantum computer can do this, and you can't show that it was done. You can't show that something had happened. And right now, we also can we can't prevent it, but we can show that it happened. And so then you're in a whole nother world of like, what do you do about it? You can try to understand what you need to do about it.
But it's interesting because when we're talking about Bitcoin, people don't seem really concerned about the mining or the consensus mechanism or the chain itself. They seem very worried about the wallets that are not quantum proofed yet. So it seems like it's almost a different conversation when talking about Bitcoin and Algorand.
Yeah, I mean, it's for a proof of work versus a proof of stake, a blockchain. The one thing that the proof of work blockchain has, I think an account-based blockchain has a number of good advantages, of course. That's why, we're associated with that. But the proof of work blockchain, you know what the genesis block is because you always are appending to the block with the most work attached to it, right? So, but in a proof of stake blockchain, you have an initial trust assumption about what that genesis block is. And then what post-quantum will make you do is you have to then have an assumption about the whole history of the chain. And you're not sure if that's correct or not. And what these Falcon signatures have done are what we call state proofs, have allowed us to say, okay, this is the true history of the chain up to this point. This is quantum secure. So we've been able to kind of back up, back it up.
I find it so fascinating. If this happens in 2029, which seems early, but that's kind of what Google is positing is possible in their paper. Do you think this will be highly problematic for a number of other blockchains?
Yeah,
I don't say that because as an opportunity to attack, but I know that's not. I just want people to take that. I'm really taking this from the perspective of someone who's on top of this and has been looking at it as a serious concern for a long time before this Google paper.
Right, and I also don't throw shade. I love Bitcoin. I hold a lot of Bitcoin. I don't want anything bad to happen to it. But if you, so one example of this is that we have this state proofs. And so we thought, okay, what we could do is we could get into post-quantum bridging. And what we would have to do, all we have to do is convince other chains to also use state proofs. And then they could have a quantum secure, it's all open source. They could have a quantum secure snapshot of their chain. That way we would offer the technology so that every chain could have the same thing with the history of the chain with quantum secure. And
all right, that's the first time I heard that. That's pretty interesting. So if that's all open source, they can all take these state proofs and make it quantum secure. That'd be pretty neat. Quantum secure bridging. You heard it here first. Greenblood says, we are for profit now, baby. Let's go. And I want a quantum vault to pair with a wallet. Could take an hour. I don't care. Yeah, that's the thing with like a wallet. If it's just moving an individual person moving money and you want it to be absolutely secure, perfect. That's actually what you would want to do. But like also if you have a use case where you need high throughput, that's going to be tough. I mean, they're going to have to solve that problem where they can keep the throughput high while also keeping it quantum secure. So it's like there's kind of two sides of that coin. But that's a good point. If you're just moving your own money and like the security is the most important factor, then yeah, maybe you don't care if it takes longer. You'd rather trade that time for security. It's like trade-offs, everything in life is trade-offs.
And then we could be in this bridging business. This was like this idea I had. And the engineers said to me, it's very hard to do that. It's baked into the beginning in Algorand. It was very easy for us to do. And for us to convince other chains that we might want to do this with, it's just going to be a huge amount of work for them to implement this. So that was something I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Do you believe that 2029 is really a possibility now when you look at this and you read that? I mean, to me, it seems like better be prepared, even if it's a 1% chance. Yeah, and I was pretty dismissive of the entire quantum threat, to be clear. Like, I'm a strong opinions, loosely held guy. And, so like, I kind of was like, hey, but the nuclear codes and the financial system and the banks. Right. But like, even if all that does get hacked, and that's always been, it seems like we still don't want Bitcoin to have 6.7 million coins come on the market at once.
Right. Like I don't have a view on this in the same way that I don't have a view on the right path that Artemis should take around the moon. You know what I mean? Like I stay in my lane, but it's going to always come down to what is the cost benefit trade-off, right? What is the risk reward trade-off of the thing? Like if you are scared to get hit by a car, you're going to take precautions only cross with the crossroad, but it's not like you're never going to leave your house, right? So for me, we need to do things and we need to continue doing things. Our chief scientific officer is one of the leading post-quantum cryptographers in the world, Chris Pikart, and we have a roadmap and we just keep chipping away at it. So we're going to roll out this year an enterprise staking program, which will allow staking in quantum secure wallets. Now we can't have those those Falcon signature keys in every transaction because we use up too much block space. We don't have a VRF that's quantum secure. We're not claiming that we do, but the people that tend to stake algos on Algorand, that's not a wallet that's going to trade around a lot. It's not going to congest the network too much. So let's make those quantum secure. And we also have a rekeying capability, which means the transition from non-secure to secure is pretty easy to do on Algorand. And so we've been discussing this a lot, as you can imagine. And so we're going to next be building a set of tools for people to upgrade to post-quantum and just make it easier for people to just chipping away at it,
I mean, meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're obviously staring at quantum in the future as this massive threat, while apparently we're just getting hacked and fished left and right. I don't know if you saw this, but I actually thought this was a massive number. Americans lost a record $11.36 billion to crypto-related fraud in 2025, up 22% from the previous year. I mean, we've had continued hacks. The Drift protocol hack reads like a Hollywood movie. For anyone who didn't see it, there was no smart contract risk. No, like literally North Korea just LARPed their way into the ability to take 200 something million dollars. Now, once again, in the same way that I kind of dismissed quantum as an everything problem and not a crypto problem, most of this is fraud that would find its way through the system, crypto or otherwise. But I still think it's worth looking at as a serious concern. $11 billion is a lot of money for the citizens of one country to lose, and can't be helping our public perception.
Right. And Nick Carter made I thought, an interesting observation. And the couple of essays that he wrote on this are very good for, if you're not a quantum cryptographer to kind of, learn what the state of the argument is. And he said, also, you don't want to be testing new cryptographic primitives. Right? Like that's inherently risky. So you're always trying to balance what you know and what's been battle tested with these new things that come out that might be better, but they're not quite as battle tested. And I thought that made a lot of sense too. So you got to start early. You got to start as early as you can, getting ready.
Yeah, I want to talk about pivoting from quantum and the risks. What are you focused on right now? Because obviously we go through these phases in crypto. It's the DeFi summer and the metaverse fall and the NFT week. Right. Right now, it seems like RWA and tokenization are the narratives. We had a clip here actually where I think Silvio was talking about this in 2020. So there's nothing new here under the sun for Algorand with the focus on tokenization, but we're seeing that hockey stick now, in my opinion, right? You talk about it forever and the adoption goes absolutely parabolic here. You got the DTCC talking about this, Citadel talking about this, the SEC, everything's going to get tokenized. So is that one of the huge narratives you're now focused on, and what are the others?
You don't have a clip of Silvio talking about meme coins and NFTs? I'm shocked by that. He was just.
I think we had the one where he had the Bored Ape avatar.
Well, you and I met for the first time 4 years ago, right? And we did a podcast live, and we were focused on financial empowerment then, and we're focused on financial empowerment now. And so we have, to our detriment, for many years, we have not jumped on a lot of those bandwagons that you just mentioned. We've always been very focused on financial empowerment.
I don't know if that's entirely true. They did have an NFT scenario, I guess. They had NFTs. They were focused on NFTs and games. And actually, this is what I've been saying. I just don't think that's true. I think there's been plenty of focuses for the Algorand Foundation, and NFTs where they had people dedicated to NFTs. They had people dedicated to gaming. To all these different dexes and all this stuff. And yeah, some of it's like financial inclusion. Some of it's just playing games, let's be honest. And I think you kind of need that stuff sometimes, but also I think it's really important for a chain to distinguish itself and find a niche. Like you have Ondo really focused on RWA. Is Polygon shifted and is really focused on payments? Algorand's kind of done all those things. It's kind of all over the place. And I just don't know that it's distinguished itself enough to have that narrative. I think you just can't be broad-based anymore. I think you really have to be narrowly focused in order to win. You have to really differentiate yourself. Algorand differentiates in a lot of good ways. It's fast, it's inexpensive, it's pretty easy. Stuff that gets built on it is actually pretty easy to use. That's been one of my favorite aspects of Algorand. Like, It's the reason I make content on it. It's not for the price action. It's because it actually works. It's because when I do stuff on Algorand, it works, generally speaking, which sounds like that should be table stakes. That sounds like that should be the baseline, but go on some of these other platforms. You know, I played around with Pump.Fun, and they take a whole bunch of fees that they don't tell you about. It does work, kind of. It worked pretty well overall, but it's like, you're like, wait a minute, I traded at one level, I bought at one level, I sold at a much higher level. How did I lose money? Well, you lost money because there's all these fees they don't tell you about. So, you know, Algorand has a lot going for it. I just think it needs to focus a little more narrowly. And I think that's really what they're trying to do now.
And, you know, what that means really is payments. We've been very focused on payments in high-risk countries, payments that are hard to make, payments, frankly, that by agencies that would rather use USDC than Tether. So international
Made the New York Times, by the way. Hasab Pay was in New York Times.
Aid agencies, that kind of thing. And now we're quite focused on agentic payments and then tokenization. So those really are the two pillars for us of what we have been and what we continue to focus our efforts on. Now, anybody can build anything they want on Algorand, of course, and there's lots of other things going on the chain. But the kind of partnerships that the foundation tries to do and the kind of narratives that we try to drive tend to be very focused on financial empowerment.
So one of those things where you just built and built and built and built, and now it's all happening around you.
Yeah, it's, you know, we're ahead of our time, Scott.
I mean, you got Ondo. This is from Ondo Finance, but they're just talking about tokenization generally. Stablecoins up 430%. People forget that really is tokenization. Tokenized funds up 51,609. Tokenized commodities up 3,287. Tokenized stocks, I was reading that Stukes up. It's like 6 million. That number's too big. 6 million%. That's whatever. I mean, this is definitely really, really, really happening.
And really early innings too. I mean, the kinds of things that you can do with tokenization, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. I mean, very little is happening in tokenization DeFi. This idea that you should always be earning the risk-free rate of all of the money that you have. Like we're in and stablecoins may even go away, because why would you hold a stablecoin and fight over whether you can earn any interest on the stablecoin when you can be holding a tiny little sliver of a money market fund and spend that in your Starbucks and always be earning on your money market fund? So it's to your point that stablecoins are just one component of tokenization more broadly, right? And Scott, I have to tell you this, despite my sparkly personality and my obviously youthful demeanor, we have never been known as the hippest blockchain.
Really?
We never have been. Yeah. Really? So, you know, when they say we're the
Buscemi with the skateboard, hey, whatever that meme is, that's me trying to hang out with meme coin guys. I'm like,
but you know, where we're quite good is these things that finance cares about: instant finality, high throughput, low footprint. And so this is we're playing to our strengths, where technology matters more than vibe matters, right?
Remember I told you, I've been telling you guys this all along, that Algorand is like basically the adult in the room. You know, it's doing the boring but important stuff in the background. But yeah, it's like, it's not the hippest blockchain. And that, if you care about like price appreciation, that matters. If you care about the technology, that's not so. You should, it's a good thing if you care about the technology. It's a bad thing if you care about price. Now, maybe long term, and, you know, this has been the hope for a lot of people, that long term, this stuff will actually start mattering and people will care about something beyond vibes. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just how it's going to work. But maybe Algorand will be the only survivor after quantum. You know, that's a possibility too, I suppose, right? Anyway, let's finish this out here.
And I'll tell you where technology is really going to matter and where vibe is not going to matter at all is with agents as well, right? Because agents don't care how big your community is. Agents don't care. No offense, Scott, but agents don't care how many podcasts I go on either, right? Like
they do not, or they might. Here's the yes and no, because agents, AI agents. Here's the thesis: AI agents will need to make micropayments in the world. That will require a fast and very efficient way of making payments. So TradFi out. Can't do it over traditional bank rails. You know, if you got to make little micropayments for all the little pieces that you're buying with your agent, or all the little actions that it's taking, you just can't do. You're just not gonna be able to do that on traditional finance. But here's the thing. Agents are created by people, and people make decisions about which blockchain their agent is going to use. And the people behind these systems are going to make those decisions. So it's still people. The agent may not care, but the person behind it will tell it what to do. Now, maybe at some point the agents will be doing this on their own. And so they'll just be looking for the most efficient route. And then maybe Algorand wins. Now, Algorand, what I will say though, is Algorand has been early on this. They have been working really hard on agentic payments. I saw one of the first test cases of two agents paying each other over Algorand rails. So I think they're doing good, but they're not the only one. Hedera's been up on this. They got multiple studios dedicated to this because that's what Hedera does. When Hedera really likes a use case, they create a studio on it. There's a stablecoin studio, there's an AI studio, there's an agentic payment studio. Like, they got all these studios, and Algorand kind of does a little bit differently. I've been seeing a lot of stuff talking about Solana doing agentic payments. So it's not a guarantee. And I don't think she's correct in the sense of, she's right, the agents won't care about what chain they're using, presumably. They don't care about podcasts or hype, but the people who are making these decisions actually do. So I wouldn't be so sure about that.
They're just going to look for something that's fast, something that's final, something that's free, very cheap, right? So we think this idea of tokenization of assets and this agentic payments, they come together in a way that is still incipient but very interesting to us.
So what does that look like, for the agentic economy? So I think a lot of people have just presupposed that they use stable coins because they're not volatile and it moves, but you made that interesting point about actually spending your money market or fractional of the money market fund. Do you think the agents get so smart that they're managing a portfolio and that they actually look for yield and an asset that they can spend with it rather than just simply transacting in a stable coin? Or are you saying they'll transact in algo?
100%. I think you can, I think you would, I think it is better to use a native currency, like an algo or a sol or a Bitcoin or an ETH to make make a stablecoin sandwich. Right now, a lot of stablecoin flows are just stablecoin sandwich. That seems to me to have a little bit more, FX volatility than you need, but it has a lot of liquidity. But if you use a native token to make these kind of rails payments, I think we may, at least bigger portions of the market may migrate to that kind of a world. But when agents are level 3 or above agents, meaning they have a set of things that they have to accomplish and a set of rules they have to abide by, and otherwise are let loose with a wallet, they will appreciate the idea of earning money all the time and getting a good price and optimizing for themselves. They may have to hire other agents to do things for them, or rent themselves out to other agents. All of that, I think, is going to require crypto. I think it will be native crypto rails probably that make that work. But they will invest in these like little micro investments all the time in things like money markets and other assets that have liquidity, tokenized though, of course.
With institutional involvement, obviously we've talked about the biggest names in the space in the world coming into crypto. Do you think that they're going to use our native blockchains like an Algo, ETH, Solana, or do you think that they're going to create walled gardens in their own blockchains and try to cut us out entirely?
I think it will disperse and then it will consolidate, actually. Because people Tether is annoying, right? Like, you can't share the economics on Tether. And if you're Amazon and you're like, I have these suppliers all over the world, I'm tired of maintaining correspondent banking relationships with all of these places. I'm tired of having to keep liquidity in all of these countries. I would rather keep my money in my, JP Morgan account or my, Morgan Stanley account, and then just issue a Amazon token. But you could use Tether. Well, no, thank you. I think I'll use the Amazon token to do all of that. So there'll be some back office supplier driven dynamics there, but it's a terrible user experience for customers, right? And so
yeah, I just don't see why wouldn't Amazon just use USDC? It seems like the easiest way for it to transfer money around the world. I mean, I guess it could have its own Amazon token too, but maybe it makes sense. I don't know. I think most people are just going to use stable coins to pass around. It's probably going to be USDC since most of the world is on the reserve. It treats it as a reserve currency anyway. Green Blue says instant in and out DeFi is nice on Algorand, no wait period. I agree with that. It's like you try to do stuff on Ethereum, it takes forever. I bought a Gala Games NFT a long time ago. It took all night. I did it in the afternoon before I went to jiu-jitsu. I went to jiu-jitsu. At the time I was traveling like 40 minutes to go to jiu-jitsu. Did the hour-and-a-half class, came back, ate supper, and then came up just in time to watch it finish. Like, that's how long it took just to buy an NFT. And that whole time you're going, oh God, I hope this works. So there's a psychological element too. We sometimes forget about that. Shark HP says win $1. Who knows, right? It'll be forever probably. I don't know. I like I said, Algorand just does not appreciate in price very much. I'd say the idea that you're going to have, the $2 level that we had 4 years ago, or especially the 369 launch price or whatever it was. Like, that's not happening for a long time. So anyway, we are almost done, guys. Almost done. Let's get to the end here.
There'll be two things that will happen. One is companies like Ubix, like Tony McLaughlin's kind of clearing of stablecoins. That's going to be very important because all stablecoins will not be created equal in the same way that bank tokenized deposits are not created equal. And so there's going to need to be some mechanism that allows you to trade back and forth and understand the variance of the risk pricing of them. But it's just going to become a little bit unwieldy, and then it's going to be more of a winner-take-all market. I think we'll just see. It's the same thing that will happen at layer ones. Not all of these layer ones will survive. Not all stablecoins will survive, I don't think.
Yeah, it's been rough run for a lot of layer ones, 2s, 12s. I don't know what layer we're at now.
Yeah.
I mean,
you might be right, Isaac Newton. Circle might be the winner in the stablecoin space.
in Web 7. I don't know about you guys. I think you go back to Web 3, everybody else. But I remember having, actually, when I met you, were we at Consensus?
I think we were, yeah.
Austin, I think, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed Sandeep from Matic at the time. He was Polygon Matic that same week, and he was talking about how layer 2s are not going to be sufficient, and we're going to layer 5 and 6 and 7. And my brain,
oh, really?
brain was just spinning. I guess we didn't get there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying it was interesting. I actually agreed with him at the time, but I think we kind of stopped at layer 2, and it seems like we're catalyzing back to layer 1.
Yeah. Well, you can do anything you want on layer 1 at Algorand. So of course we push the layer 1 as the best narrative, of course.
So before I let you go, what else is really exciting to you right now?
Well, I just think on tokenization, we just haven't. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't looked at securitization vehicles, all of this stuff. I mean, finance is like it's like crochet. It's beautiful on the outside, and then you turn it over, and it's just this absolute mess. And I think where really the juice for crypto rails right now is going to be fixing some of that back office stuff, having everything on a ledger. Folks like Franklin Templeton talk about this all the time, but they're just talking about things that are already liquid. You get into securitization vehicles, mortgage securitization vehicles, all of that stuff that is handled by no offense to the calculation agents in the world, but like nobody needs calculation agents, right? These can all be smart contract devised. It's very easy to kind of figure out who needs to be paid what by code, right? And so we just think there's huge opportunity in both of these areas, and we are doing a lot in the humanitarian payments as well. We do 80% of the electricity bills in Afghanistan are paid on Algorand rails through a company called Hisab Pay. We have the third largest prediction market in the world in Alpha Arcade. Now, it goes Polygon, Kalshi, Alpha Arcade is a distant third, of course. I don't want to overstate it, but we are the third, and you can have a parlay on Alpha Arcade as well. So it's we're lots of things bubbling up all over the place.
I mean, it seems like we're really just tip of the iceberg of all the actual utility that we're going to see finally from blockchain. Right. I think it was always theoretical, and this, I don't even want to call it a cycle, but at this point, it feels like there's no putting the cat back in the bag.
Absolutely not. And it's always darkest before the dawn, right? So.
Well, let's hope that's true for the entire world and not just our industry. Anything else I might have missed before I let you go?
No. It's always a pleasure to come on here, and I appreciate you very much and what you've done for the industry more broadly.
Well, thank you so much, Stacy. I'm going to let you go. Stay on for a couple more seconds, but always a pleasure to talk with you. I hope we can do it in person again very soon.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Stacy. Awesome. What a great conversation. One of my favorite people, as I said, to have these conversations with. It's always nice to be able to call the people that are actually building things instead of just talking to people like me who are just talking about people who are building things. So amazing to see what's happening there. I just wanted to tell you guys, because I had not announced this widely, but I'm actually sitting down with CZ tonight.
Oh, that'll be a good one. Anyway, that's kind of the end of the interview. So I'm kind of curious how people reacted to this. Let's see the comments. I know it's okay. Just looking at something about what a wonderful inspiration video. Give us more insights into the Algorand ecosystem. I was an early investor and a holder of ALGO, thanks to the brilliance of Silvio and later Stacy, with people like that at the helm. Very serious and hardworking developers as goals. This is certainly a chain to watch. So hey, that's nice. Someone says, I appreciate you having Stacy on discussing Algorand, which I think will be part of the future of agents, DeFi, tokenization, and general crypto rails. Hard to agree with agents. I think it's going to be a strong agent narrative. Dirty Doug Swick says, garbage loses its scent when the wind changes direction. Jesus. Actually, it's funny how few have anything to do with. Oh, someone said Algorand is the future. Yeah, few of them don't have anything to do with Algorand. Smashing would be going up 12%. Yeah, guys, you just got to do. Here's the thing, and I know I get these. I get these complaints too. You know, people. It's like you kind of have to play the game with the titles. You just do. Changes nothing. BlackRock has got Bitcoin stabled between 72 and 60. Someone says Satoshi Nakamoto is Dr. John Nash, a mathematician who won a Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, died in a car crash years ago. It's actually kind of surprised how few of these. Another shit beep coiner sucking the blood off Bitcoin. Some people just don't love any layer ones that aren't Bitcoin. That's fine. Hey, look at Stacy Warden, the head of the most decentralized blockchain on the planet. Is that supposed to be sarcastic? I'm not sure. I think it's good. I mean, the number of nodes are super high. That's good, right? Well, overall, I thought that was a pretty interesting interview. I thought she did pretty well. She kept it together. There was one part where she kind of left, where Scott wasn't laughing. It was a little bit awkward, maybe. Yeah, cool. He's gonna have CZ on too, by the way. No, obviously, there wasn't much that if you're like been following Algorand for a long time, you didn't really get much out of this. I think she did a good job selling it. Like, and there was that bit about quantum security that I didn't know. So, and also with the agents, I didn't know about the different levels. I might have to look into that more. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't do agents myself. I'm still sticking with the models and with like, I use Codex, but some people use Cloud Code. Which I think is pretty interesting. But yeah, so anyway, I think that's all we got for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Nice little audience to watch the stream today. And I thought it'd be interesting to kind of change things up, shake things up a little bit, and just dive into this, dive into this news here, because I thought it was pretty